Then they asked me to sell, and I realized I was good at it. For me, team leaders are the key to everything.
I think it's important to let people in charge of their department make those decisions and feel that they have the ownership of that department. Otherwise, if they have the CEO coming in doing half the decision making, they're not going to feel like they actually own the department themselves.
I think the biggest difference for me right now and being an entrepreneur and a partner is I look at that P&L, I look at that cash flow. When I started, Xseed had a total of 7 people.
Oh, wow.
And today we are, like you said, close to 100 people. And so we grew from one client in Uruguay and a total of 7 people to more than 40 clients in the US and 100 people, right? It's a different animal. This is going to sound like, I'm throwing modesty out the window or selfish or whatever, but it is the story. It started with me. The sales team has been mostly just me. I think the challenge we have right now is how do we scale, right? From 5 to 100, fine, it works. I think we want to, over the next 3 years, I want to grow past 300 people. And we're not going to achieve that if we continue just relying on a person, a name, whatever that person is, whatever that name is, right? We become the muscle that their clients need to develop whatever they are developing. And so the things that I'm working on right now, it's a dashboard for the antennas that are working where they can see, okay, this is the client you referred, this is how many people you have. I think sometimes what happens is you forget that it's a numbers game and it's about consistency and it's about doing it and doing it and doing it over and over and over again. He says something like, do cool shit and post about it online and make internet friends. And that pretty much sums up what I do on a daily basis.
Welcome back to Prospecting Pros. And today on the show, we have Mateo with Xseed Solutions. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, John. It's nice to see you again.
I met Mateo last year at a conference in Portugal called Surf and Sales. So the concept is that we get to talk through sales and business problems while also having the release of going to the ocean the second half of the day and kind of forgetting about work and trying to take on a new challenge, which was really fun. So that's where we met. And Mateo is from Uruguay. So Mateo, give the audience a bit of background on yourself and your work career.
So Mateo, born and raised in Uruguay, South America. I am an attorney by background, but I worked in outsourcing most of my life. I started working in outsourcing in 2009. At Tata Consultancy Services, I was leading procurement and a legal team for PricewaterhouseCoopers in the US. And I grew there. I ended up managing as well an accounts payable team. So I had the whole procure to pay line. And then I joined Altisource, a US company that had a captive center in Uruguay. I did the vendor management. I was growing up in operations, leading teams, always working for US companies. I ended up managing close to 200 people while at Altisource, became a VP, had a team in Uruguay, had a team in the US, a team in India. I was eventually let go of Altisource, difference in where we wanted to take my career. And that led me to entrepreneurship and more into the sales side. I was not a sales guy, but I joined a software development company as an operations VP. And then they asked me to sell, and I realized I was good at it. I joined then another software development company, again as a business development partner. But quickly I was helping the company grow, but not only doing that, but also kind of leading the team and leading the account management and the relationship with clients and everything. I'm not a technical person, so I was not leading the company in terms of, okay, this is how we build software, but I was leading the relationship management with clients above all. I have an amazing partner, Marcelo. He's a brother to me, and he opened up the doors for me to become a partner and eventually to become the CEO of the company. And so that's my story. It's a story of transformation, an attorney that started working in outsourcing and operations, and then later transitioned into software and sales, and now a CEO.
Impressive. So I want to talk, we're going to talk about Xseed Solutions and dig into that a little bit. But what stuck out to me was you said you managed 200 people. That's insane. At one of your previous roles. So how was that? You said it was across multiple regions across the world. And was that solely your responsibility? Like, tell me more about that.
So of course it's not me having 200 direct reports, right? I had a structure of leadership, so I had directors, managers, team leads, right? A whole structure trickling down until we talk about those 200 people. Back at TCS, I ended up managing 60 people, and then when I transitioned to Altisource, I already from the beginning I got 40 people in Uruguay and 30 people in India. But I had, like I said, a structure of team leads, etc., etc. So now I was managing leaders of team members. It's an amazing experience, right? And you learn a lot. You learn a lot, and you learn a lot about management, about leadership, and the difference in locations. And you're managing. I was managing a location with me, right? I could see them in the floor. We were still going to the office back then, but then I had a team in India, right? And so you learn how to trust the leaders you have over there to do their job. But also, the most important thing in the world is to travel and to be as close to them as often as you can, right? So I will go to India from time to time. I will go to the US a lot of times and try to stay close to all of my leaders and be there for the different teams I was managing.
From that experience, what stood out the most? Like, what was the most unexpected thing you learned from managing that amount of people?
Good question. I think it's really about empowering their leaders, right? It's impossible for you to do the job. You're not going to do it yourself. You rely on the team leaders. For me, team leaders are the key to everything. And when I say team leader, I mean their first line of report, right? So typically you will have one team lead, 15 people ish, right? Or one team lead, 20 people at the most, right? That's the most direct reports someone can manage. That direct report is the key to success. And so empowering them and giving them what they need to succeed, and the flow of information from me to them, and coaching and everything becomes the most important thing in the world. I'm not really doing the work. I'm empowering the leaders to do the work through their team members, right? So that is what I spend most of my time on.
No, I think that's key. Like in my role, I have team leads and I have different managers of different departments, and sometimes stuff will be sent my way, but it's like really it's the job of the person in charge of that department to do it. It's not for me to be doing. Otherwise, I'll never get the stuff done that I'm actually set out to do.
Yep.
So I think it's important to let the people in charge of their department make those decisions and feel that they have the ownership of that department. Otherwise, if they have the CEO coming in doing half the decision making, they're not going to feel like they actually own the department themselves. I'm assuming there's a lot that you learned from having that many direct reports, but people you were managing to now you're at Xseed Solutions. And correct me if I'm wrong, there's roughly 100 people at the company.
Yeah.
How many people are there? So I bet you that was great experience that you can now translate to your current company where you're acting as the CEO. That must have been really, really a good experience to pull from. What are the differences now in your current setup and structure and being the CEO compared to when you were managing these 200 people across different regions of the world?
I think owning the P&L. When you are working in a company, you can also own the P&L, but you don't really own it like you own it as a CEO and a partner, right? I think the biggest difference for me right now and being an entrepreneur and a partner is I look at that P&L, I look at that cash flow also. You don't really think about cash flow when you are working. At TCS, I was managing 60 people, but TCS is a monster. It's 500,000 people across the world. And then Altisource was 10,000 people across the world. So even if I'm managing 200 people, which sounds like a lot, it's not that much within the context of the company I was working for, right? And so I'm not losing sleep over cash flow. I'm not losing sleep over a lot of stuff that I do lose sleep right now. I sleep well, but I mean, you get the point, right? I mean, it's something I care about, and you probably, as the owner and leader and founder of Level Up, you go through similar things, right? Now, a client is behind a few payments, and you are looking at the numbers, and you're looking at all the salaries you need to pay, and that becomes a different type of responsibility, I will say. I think my responsibility, even if the total number of people is less, is way higher. It's a different thing. I enjoy the ride. I enjoy where I am today, but I think that is the biggest difference, I would say.
Yeah, I can agree there. There are certain things that ultimately I'm the only person that is going to care the most about these things. And some examples would be, okay, this tool isn't really being used, or we're paying for it and it's not being used. Why are we paying for that? Like, it either needs to be used or we need to get rid of it. And so no one really has that desire to make that decision or push on it. And so like I constantly need to be the one doing that. Or the other one would be, yeah, you mentioned late payments. Like we could have over 100K plus in late past due payments. They're due. I'm not charging a late fee, even though it's in the contract. I'm not doing that. But it's like, okay, we need to get paid for the work we're doing. It's not free.
Yeah.
So when you started at Xseed, what is the difference in the company then to now in terms of growth? Like so I think you've been there roughly five years, right?
Yeah.
Give or take. What is the difference in where the company started when you first got there to where it is now?
It is an amazing story. When I started, Xseed had a total of 7 people.
Oh, wow.
And today we are, like you said, close to 100 people. And so we grew from 1 client in Uruguay and a total of 7 people to more than 40 clients in the US and 100 people, right? It's a different animal in itself. Mm-hmm. It's like a completely different thing, right? Xseed has been around for a while. It started in 2010 and it was successful, and it had great clients in South America such as Coca-Cola, Adidas, Unilever, and others. But then it had a spin-off. They created a very successful product, and that product became a company in itself, right? So what happened to Xseed was that because most of the manpower and most of the attention went to that spin-off product and that company, Xseed was kind of dwindling down by the time I joined. And from there, it became kind of a phoenix story of rebirth and growing like we have grown over the last years.
So let's talk about that. I want to hear talk me through some of the decisions that you made that really started to accelerate the company. I imagine it took some time, but from 1 client to where you are now, walk us through some of the sales channels, tactics, maybe some of the team you hired. How did that growth happen?
This is going to sound like, I'm throwing modesty out the window or selfish or whatever, but it is the story. It started with me. The sales team has been mostly just me, but I think the focus on delivering excellent results to clients and really focusing on relationships has been the biggest growth factor. If I look at last year, 60% of our growth is just coming from referrals. Some of those referrals are paid. Awesome. Many of them, more than half of the referrals are not paid referrals, are just happy customers that are referring us to other people. And so what I think is very important is that my background as an operations guy, that's how I approach everything. When I'm trying to close a deal, when I close a deal, I'm not just closing and going away. I'm closing and I'm staying there, and I'm showing my face week after week, and I'm visiting clients, and I'm really guaranteeing the results. And if the results are not there, I feel super embarrassed, and I think clients can see that. I think the challenge we have right now is how do we scale, right? From 5 to 100, fine, it works. I think we want to, over the next 3 years, I want to grow past 300 people. And we're not going to achieve that if we continue just relying on a person, a name, whatever that person is, whatever that name is, right? And so that's the challenge we're working through right now. Hiring SDRs, finding the right people, finding the right team, the right balance, growing the right network of what I call antennas, referral partners. And in our business, a lot of the business comes through those referral partners, which basically we complement, right? So let's say there's a fractional CTO. We do staff augmentation for software development, right? That's what we do. Nearshore staff augmentation. We work for US companies, and we hire in Latin America, and we build squads for US companies, right? So there's a part of the strategy that is finding people in the US that we are complementary services to what they do, right? So if they are a fractional CTO, a fractional CPO, a recruiting firm that only does US, right? We complement them in a way we become the muscle that their clients need to develop whatever they are developing. And so those aggregators, it's really part of the strategy, has been part of the growth over all of these years, right? I'm not, when I say it's been me leveraging a lot of those relationships, right?
Yeah, you
Not me
can't do it
doing
all
it.
on your own.
It's
Yeah.
impossible. It's impossible, right? But it's me building sort of that network of antennas and network of people that trust us and want to refer business our way.
So when we were together in Portugal, Scott gave the talk about the go to network and building that network referral partnerships. Did you already have that in place, or did you take a lot from what you learned from that talk and start implementing it?
This episode is sponsored by Level Up Leads, a B2B sales development and appointment setting agency. Companies always need pipeline, but they oftentimes don't want to hire SDRs internally. The whole process is risky and expensive. You've got hiring costs, onboarding, training, additional spend on your tech stack, a few months to ramp up. And with that being said, SDRs are a high turnover position, and the person you hire might not necessarily work out, so you need to start all over again. That's why companies outsource this. Level Up Leads allocates a team of people, their tech stack, so you can onboard and launch your campaigns in about a week. They set qualified meetings in your calendar so your team has more selling opportunities. Visit levelupleads.io today to learn more. All right, now back to the show.
I had it in place, but the note that was an amazing conversation. And when he was talking, the note I was taking is I have to put more effort on this. The way that I treat my antennas needs to improve. And so the things that I'm working on right now, it's a dashboard for antennas that are working where they can see, okay, this is the client you referred, this is how many people you have, this is all the story of your invoices and how much we're paying you because of how much we are billing. And then these are the materials you can use to talk about Xseed. And then so a dashboard, a newsletter, sending them information about what we're doing, how we're growing, right? Telling them their story. Because I think it's an amazing story, but the more we can feed our antennas with that information, the easier it becomes for them to go and talk about Xseed, right? So basically, I was already doing it, but I realized I was underutilizing that avenue and I could be way better at doing it. I think sometimes what happens is I try a lot of people, right? And some people work, some people don't work, right? And sometimes with sales, you know it, right? Sometimes you try and then it doesn't work and you go like, oh, maybe I don't want to spend that much energy there. And you forget that it's a numbers game and it's about consistency and it's about doing it and doing it and doing it over and over and over again. And it's a numbers game, right? Maybe you try 50 antennas and only 5 work, but those 5 really make a difference. So
how do you go about finding new antennas, new people that you could potentially build out this referral partnership with? Do you go in person or conferences? Like how, let's say you have let's make up a number, you have 50 right now. How do you go about getting the next 15 to 20?
Great question. I acknowledge I am very bad at events. I am good at one-on-ones. I am good in LinkedIn. I am good at leveraging my network. It goes back a little bit of everything that I did for over 10 years working for multinational companies. That gives you an amazing network, right? So the number of people I can tap into, it's when I realize I had that is very, very big, right? So one thing corporations give you is if you leverage it, if you work that network, it's an amazing network, right? And then I just reach out on LinkedIn one-on-one or talk to friends of friends or get introduced. It's like it keeps growing, right? I saw a guy I saw on internet. I don't know if I don't remember the name, like Meme Lord. I don't know if you heard about him. It's a guy that memes, that he does memes in the US, and he did like ended up like raising a lot of money just for doing. Basically, it doesn't matter. But he says something like, "Do cool shit and post about it online and make internet friends." And that pretty much sums up what I do on a daily basis. I will post on LinkedIn. If you look at my LinkedIn, it's like an Instagram, like a nerdy Instagram, right? Because I talk about work, but I also post about I had a gig this Sunday, and this is me with my band, right? So I show myself like I don't shy away about showing myself. That's how I use LinkedIn, and I'm there all the time and posting about stuff that I did, and then making new friends in internet because I don't live in the US and I have a family, 2 kids, and I enjoy my life in Uruguay. So I want to continue having this sort of arrangement where I work for the US but I live in Uruguay. But the internet is amazing, right? I mean, I don't know. I do crazy stuff with clients. One of my clients actually invited me to do like skydiving, right? And so Like I'm like, okay, let's do it, right? So this guy from New York, actually from Switzerland, but he lives in New York. I went there. He took me on a ride. We ended up jumping off a plane, right? And I posted about that, and then you connect with crazy random connections start happening from there, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's a weird thing where I trust the universe and I keep going and I keep making friends online. And that's what I train. I have one SDR right now. That's what I train him on doing as well, right? And finding the fit and not pushing the fit. Like this guy, my SDR, he likes surfing. So we're like, okay, you like surfing. Try people in California that might have like your same interest. Start there, see what happens,
Mm-hmm.
right? And open up relationships and build genuine relationships where you start creating those online internet friends that will open doors for you. It's the random crazy way that I've been doing it so far. I know that there are more kind of scientific ways of doing it, or different ways of doing it, but I really think that it's all about relationships, and if you build enough of them, you create opportunities. That's what I have been doing over the last 5 years.
It's good advice. I was just curious to know because it's, for me, I also have this going, not to the extent you do, but at some point you run out of people, right? So then how do you go about getting new people? And so I was very curious. Like
Yeah.
I do think in-person events. So there's like conferences, but then there's a lot of different groups with local meetups. Like I'm
Yep.
in Barcelona, and I'm part of two separate groups, both paid, and they have meetups all the time. And there's a
Yep.
bunch of people in the city that I do not know that are potential just good relationships and they're in the tech space. So like there's another way to get out and meet people, and you just never know what would come
Yep.
from it. Just like us, we met at a conference, a little micro conference,
Yep.
almost like
Yep.
a little meetup. So yeah, that's one way to do it. And in your space, I've worked with companies doing staff augmentation, outsource software development, and it's a lot of relationship based. The question is, once you kind of max that out, like we're discussing, how do you go about growing past that next step, right?
Yep.
What other channels are you going to use past that? There's a few different options, but it's becomes challenging. And the companies we worked with, the most challenging part for us and working with them was knowing when there was a need. How do you know a company has a need? You're not quite sure, right?
Yep.
So outside the relationship, you're kind of just like going in cold. There's no real indicators. There's some slight things, maybe funding rounds, maybe some new hires, but I always found it tough. It just seems to be more of a relationship play.
Very true.
So
Very true. And I wish I had a better answer to this other than numbers game and serendipity. My approach needs to change. I need to evolve. Exceed needs to evolve here. I realize it. I acknowledge it 100%. But so far, it's been a lot of try enough people so that you get the timing right. It's so hard to get the timing right. You just hit the nail in the head, right? Hitting the timing is so hard, right? Because you might be
mhm.
talking to a CTO, he might like what you do, he might like you. He's not hiring right now. So that's when you build the relationship, you stay top of mind, and when they need something, they go like, "Oh, let me ask Mateo,"
Yeah, I
right?
remember Mateo. How the hard part is, how do you stay top of mind? How are you the top 1 to 2 people that person thinks of when the timing is right? And I guess that is building that relationship.
Yeah, that is building that relationship. That is making it as genuine as possible. That is, I travel to the States 2 to 4 times per year. And so hanging out, let's go for beers. No agenda,
Mhm.
right? The amount of people I meet in the US, and I either go for drinks or coffee or lunch or whatever, and whenever I go to the US and I talk to people, I never talk about Exceed unless and until they ask me. Otherwise, it's just like, hey, how are you? How are things? How can I help you? What's going on in your life? Let's have fun. Let's talk about whatever, right?
Mhm.
Let's do a jump session. Let's go surfing. Let's jump off a plane, whatever, right? That's the approach. And it's weird because then those people, when the time comes, most of the time, they ask me, like, hey, by the way, I'm looking for a Salesforce, a
Mhm.
front end, a back end, a DevOps. Oh yeah, sure, we can help.
So for your SDR, what does he or she focus on? How do they go about their day and trying to drum up new business?
Mostly LinkedIn. We tried. what didn't work for me in the past has email has not worked for me. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm not an expert in sales. I'm more of a hustler than anything else. But email for me hasn't worked. Cold calling hasn't worked for me. Again, I know companies that thrive doing cold calling. I know that's one of the avenues that you use as well, and you are thriving as a company, right? So it clearly works for you. So it's mostly LinkedIn, and mostly the other thing that we have is I have a podcast, and the podcast again has no ulterior motive than just because I'm an attorney and I work in the tech industry. I feel like an imposter if I start talking about technology myself. So I started doing this in 2023, and I've been doing an episode a week since then. This week I released our episode 147. And so I meet a lot of people there, right? And so this SDR is also like sometimes when he's just building relationships, inviting people over to the podcast, right? So the other day we had a conversation with a lady. She works for a newspaper type magazine in New York, and we didn't talk about Xseed, right? But she was like, "I know what you guys are doing. I know that eventually you want to stay top of mind, and eventually, I don't even have to ask, but I realize what you guys do." And we were laughing like honestly, we didn't talk about Xseed. We didn't even, it doesn't even come up, right?
She put words into your mouth.
But she's like, but she knows, right? And so that's another avenue. Again, we really enjoy just meeting people. So that, to be honest, a very small percentage of people that goes into the podcast eventually becomes a client, or it works otherwise, right? Someone is already a client and we help them by doing the podcast. Or sometimes I have friends in the US that are out of a job, and I go like, "Hey, do you want to do an episode? Maybe that will give you exposure and you can get a job," right? It's like trusting the network that way. So this SDR is doing all of that. It's he's prospecting as well and connecting through those avenues and finding meetings and putting meetings. And he has been here for 3 months only so far.
The SDR, okay.
Yeah, he's doing great. He's doing like I think already in January he did like 6 meetings, and it's January, right? So I'm happy about that.
That's pretty good.
January, yeah. So we'll see.
Previously, you talked about really you not only helping with sales, but really being there throughout the fulfillment process and making sure they have a good experience. What else are you guys doing to stand out? Because there's a lot of companies out there across the world that fall into the same umbrella, right? I know there's a lot of differences, but what are some of the things you're saying for example, your SDR might get some pushback? Why should I talk with you? What makes you guys different? How would you respond to that?
Yeah. So there are the obvious things that a lot of companies share, right? I mean, but we provide senior resources that can hit the floor running. We provide those resources very fast. In less than 10 days, you are going to get those resources in front of you, and you can interview whatever resources you want to interview. And we use both humans and AI to find the best resources and to filter them, right? We have what we call our AI recruiter, which help us go very fast in doing technical and cultural fit type interview to filter out people. But I think it's about when we start delivering, we really become a staffing partner. We really become an extension of our client's HR team. We meet with them on a weekly basis. We visit them, and we just make sure that everything is working as expected, right? And we make it very easy when it's not, because the reality is sometimes it doesn't work as expected, right? You have 5 people in the team, and then maybe one of them is not working out. And so I've seen companies that get very tricky about how you go about that, right? Someone is not working out, not joining meetings or whatever, not delivering as expected, and they just make it a pain for you as a customer to replace that person, right? In our case, when someone is not working and there's data behind it, and we try to make that person work and it doesn't work, we are very fast as well as at replacing someone and making sure that the client is getting the value for what they are paying for. So I think our focus on operations and our focus on results and the way that we stay close to our customers really makes a difference. And I think the other thing that makes a difference is our focus not only on skills, but also a cultural fit. There's so much, even when you're working remote, there's so much that goes into can I communicate with this person, and do I feel like there's empathy here, and do I feel like they understand and they care about my business, and or is it just like a random transactional thing where they join my daily but they don't really care, and I don't know what they are doing, and I don't know if they understood what I care for and my product, etc., etc. So that closeness in the relationship, and we have three values at Xseed. Relationships matter. The way we get along with our clients and with ourselves matters. We're spending most of our time here more than we spend, with our families, and that makes a difference in terms of how we deliver. We make things happen, which is focus on results, right? And making sure that things turn out as expected. And when they are not, we feel embarrassed because our names are at stake. And then the last one is we keep it simple. So less gibberish, less friction, either to get started or to replace someone and to get out of the contract. The flexibility that we offer to our clients, I think it's paramount to differentiate ourselves.
I love it. Mateo, thank you so much for joining us and sharing a little bit about your background and some of the insights on what it's like to actually manage triple digits in terms of headcount, which is impressive. It's very challenging. And so thanks for sharing some insights. Where's the best place if someone is interested in talking to you or learning more about Xseed? Where can they find you?
They can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Mateo Bervejillo, or they can, this might be simpler, just shoot me an email, Mateo, Mateo @xseed.com.ui.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the conversation. Until next time.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.